Masking is the difference between an edit that looks flat to one that looks professional, and it's what most beginners skip because it looks intimidating. But don't worry, I'll walk you through 5 essential masks that I use on every car photo, and once you know them, you'll never edit a car photo the same again. Global adjustments, the stuff you do to the whole photo, can only get you so far, and a car photo has so many different aspects that needs fine-tuning by itself. That's where masking comes in. Here we have our base edits, which I taught in the previous video. We're going to head over to the masking tab, where we have our options of what we're going to mask. For our very first mask, we're going to hit the linear gradient, or M on the keyboard. Your little plus will come up, and where you start will start the mask, and you'll bring that forward. You'll notice how there's 2 separate boxes. This first box is the completely solid area, so whatever you adjust will be 100% in this area, and this next box is the feather, and what the feather does is it brings out the mask softly to the rest of the image. So for this very first mask, I'm going to get all of the ground in the red, and I'm going to go up to the masking panel and hit subtract and hit select subject. So this will subtract the car from the mask, as I only want to affect the ground. Now the purpose of this mask is to remove distractions from the ground to draw your attention towards the car. I'm going to do this by bringing down the exposure slightly, bringing down the blacks, taking a little bit of saturation away from the grass, coming down to the dehaze and increase the dehaze, increase the clarity and increase the texture to bring out some texture in the grass. There's the before and there's the after. Now, our next mask is going to be the car itself. Now, if you have an easy photo like this, you can just hit the plus and hit select subject and it will automatically pick the car for you. But if your photo's a little bit trickier, you can always just hit plus, brush, and brush over your car. Now, the purpose of this mask is to bring out the car and pop out all of its features. To do that, we're going to first bring up the exposure very slightly, bring up the shadows to bring out the details of the darker areas. What we're trying to avoid is bringing out too much of the car to make it seem like it's a sticker on the photo. That's not what we want. We're going to bring up the shadows slightly. We're also going to bring up the whites slightly to make them pop a little bit more, and bring down the blacks to give it a little bit more contrast. We're also going to bring down the highlights for a little bit more contrast. I can also bring up the saturation, which is usually something I don't like to do in the photo, but since it's only selecting the car, it'll bring out the saturation in the rims and the calipers. I'm also going to come down to the texture, clarity and dehaze and bring them up slightly to get a little bit more depth to the car. So here's the before and here's the after. Now, here comes my absolute favorite mask and by far the most important. This is how to get that hazy sunrise and sunset look in Lightroom. We're going to first think of where the sun was or the light in this image. We can tell by the shadow going this way that the sun was coming from this direction. So I'm going to hit the plus, hit the radial gradient and start it where I would have presumed the sun to be. I'm going to make a huge mask that's going to affect most of the image. I'm then going to rotate it so it's pointing directly onto the car like the sunlight would have been. Now we're going to bring up the exposure very slightly, change the temperature to be slightly warmer, and come down to the dehaze. Going to now go into the negative of the dehaze to make it slightly hazier, bring down the clarity to get rid of some of the detail in the leaves. And as you can see, this is bringing in that sunset, sunrise, hazy look onto the car. So this is the before and this is the after. That mask makes the biggest of differences. But now that moves on to our 4th mask, which is very important. The sky, because of that dehaze, is starting to look a little bit gray and yellow and muted, which I really don't like. So I'm going to come over to the plus and I'm going to hit select sky, which should automatically select the sky in this image. Now for the sky, since I want to bring back that blue color, I'm going to change the temperature to be more blue, and that looks much better. Now for the final mask I like to do on most of my images, if the light is coming from this way, we want to have some sort of opposite on the other side to draw your attention to the center of the image. I'm going to do this by hitting the plus, linear gradient, and go in the complete opposite side of where that light is coming from, and go about a 1/4 of the way in. I'll also bring the harsh part down just so it's a bit more softer on the image. I'm going to come over to the tone and bring down the exposure and bring down the highlights so your attention is focused on the car itself. Because this mask is intersecting the car, I'm going to hit subtract the subject so the car comes back and pops a little bit more. Now, bonus mask I like to do when there's a bright highlight on an aspect of the car, I'll do a small radial gradient pointing directly up, and on this pointed mask, I'm going to bring up the exposure slightly, bring up the highlights, and bring down the dehaze to give it that glowy effect. I then like to duplicate the mask and rotate it 90 degrees so it's also going horizontal like a star. And that's how I took this base edited image into this using those 5 essential masks. Not bad.